Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast and game 2 in a series between mouzMorrow and Grubby here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. Grubby currently taking a 1-0 lead now in this series, and we'll see what's going to be happening. Grubby spawning here on the top right hand side of the map. I know I was looking at Morrow for a moment. Grubby spawning on the top right hand side as the blue Protoss. I don't know why he's actually not using green. Grubby does like to choose green a lot, so perhaps he is not allowed to choose green, just pretty much stuck to the red versus blue battles here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. Morrow spawning as the red Zerg here player on the bottom left hand side of the map here in the Xel'Naga Caverns, and I'm curious to see what's going to be happening between these two players, especially how they try to play the map. Now, a lot of people ask me, like, what are certain strategies between, you know, Protoss versus Zerg, what you should be doing, so on and so forth, and a lot of it towards high-level play really boils down to the map, close spawns, far spawns, proximity, different strategies, and I don't think I've cast a Protoss versus Zerg on this matchup, or on this map for quite a while, so I want to see how this particular matchup has evolved. Morrow sticking to his standard extractor and then spawning pool here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. And one of the things that I'd like to see, that I've actually seen happen before, is that I've seen a Zerg player place down an extractor after hiding a drone over here, and then the probe comes in, he sees the extractor being built, he's like, okay, it's going to be extractor spawning pool, and then the drone comes over here and then places down a hatchery. It kind of like a head fake, like, haha, I tricked you. You thought I was going for extractor spawning pool, but no, I went for a hatchery, and you didn't stop it with your probe. So we'll see what's going to be happening here, as apparently the Protoss like pentagons wandering around on the low ground portion of the natural expansion location. Grubby should be getting up a cybernetics core in just a moment. There is that second pylon there, so the timing on this particular build almost near perfect, as he's probably going to start chrono boosting probes once again, and he also needs to get a zealot out, perhaps getting the zealot and then gonna perhaps chrono boost probes right after he has 50. No, he's gonna go for another assimilator first. Okay, I'm gonna stop trying to predict what Grubby's gonna do because I don't know his build orders. Back over here, the probe now making its way up the ramp. It needs to make sure that his opponent isn't trying to go for like a 5 roach rush. And that's one of the scariest things, when you're like, okay, I'm gonna leave my probe down over here to just continue to wander around, and then all of a sudden you see like 7 roaches come out of your opponent's main base, as he's like, okay, you can block my natural expansion, I'm just gonna go for a completely different strategy. The probe now trying to run away from those Zerglings should have little to no problem at all, as it's able to mineral path straight through that zealot. We are going to be seeing a sentry first coming out from Grubby, and with the sentry first, that's a pretty standard strategy. I believe Grubby is going to stick to his 3-gate expansion tactic here in the Xel'Naga Caverns. If it worked on Metalopolis, might as well try it one more time. A sentry now going to start dealing some damage towards that drone, as we are now getting a second sentry. So 2 sentries. Sentries do take a fair amount of time to build. 32 seconds to build, even with a chrono boost. But that sentry now getting more damage. You can see that kind of a stutter step on that sentry, and oh, one more shot of damage. There it goes. Somehow that drone died before the sentry beam even hit it. And back over here, you're going to see 2 sentries. Perhaps a 3rd sentry will be warped in just a moment. There you go. As Grubby waiting to get up to 3 sentries, and once he has 3 sentries, perhaps he's going to start adding stalkers, or just continue to just try to warp in as much sentries as he can while saving up a large amount of minerals. So this has become a very common strategy as of late. 3-gate expansion with sentries to be able to fend off and corral a unit against your opponent's units. Queen now over here. We are seeing one extractor play so far, and what is Morrow doing with this drone? Going into a roach warren, so it is not going to be any banelings. Banelings mainly used against Terran to try to counter any marine pushes, although banelings do deal a lot of damage towards sentries if they can find their target. The chances of a sentry not being able to drop a force field in time is relatively low. Grubby now opting to use an hallucination in order to scout his opponent. There's that forge, and pretty much sticking to the same exact build order that he did just moments ago, getting up to 6 sentries right now. if he stays true to form, he'll warp in one more sentry and then start getting some stalkers. Sentries and zealots are on the move, looking to find their target and get some damage. Sentry now moving away, and now going to quickly take down that Zergling there. There is one Zergling hiding out over here as well. Is this another sentry? No, one stalker finally being added. Those sentries just going to make their way back, as mouzMorrow now has that double spine crawler front door. A Phoenix is out, or a hallucinated Phoenix is out, to try to keep track of the bases. So far, he sees that there is a Roach Warren. He sees the hatchery in play and the spawning pool. Pretty much saw everything he needed to see, and he knows what mouzMorrow is really trying to go for. We'll see if mouzMorrow deviates too much from his past strategy. He may want to try to take down these destructible rocks in just a moment now in order to establish his third base, but Colossi have a very easy time attacking against this location here by walking up and down the cliff, or walking up and down the cliff here as well. You can see the Stalker, Sentry, Zealot army now making its way down, another hallucinated Phoenix making its way out. Very important that Grubby makes sure that he constantly gets those hallucinations in order to keep track of his opponent. You can see the destructible rocks about halfway done on life now. So those roaches are going to be able to come in, a drone will be able to come in and build a hatchery down over here in just a moment, as we now see a bit of aggression by Grubby. Grubby now moving down with these stalkers, perhaps going to get some damage with these units here, but the units are close by, as the stalkers and sentries are going to try to battle it out. There are a lot of spine crawlers, so 2 spine crawlers with a decent amount of range and now trying to back off. And this is really something where I would like to see Grubby get some hallucinated roaches. Those roaches would take minimal damage by those spine crawlers, and I think you actually hallucinate 2 zealots, and by hallucinating 2 zealots, that is a large amount of damage that it would be able to absorb. These destructible rocks now going to get taken down as well, so it looks like a third base coming in by Grubby in just a moment. There is a Phoenix now trying to wander around, as a hatchery is now in place by mouzMorrow. There you go, there are the hallucinated zealots by Grubby. And I think if he had actually just used a lot of hallucinations here to absorb damage from the spine crawlers, he could have actually broken that front door rather easily, as those units were trying to come in. That one zealot taking a fair amount of damage, as the zealots now making their way down. It looked like the hallucination. Oh, you can activate a Xel'Naga tower with an hallucination. And I thought Zerg had it easy with Zerglings activating the Xel'Naga watchtower. That's very, very cool. That's something I did not know. One Overlord now trying to make its way in, and will not see the light of day once again, as it just flies over and quickly gets destroyed here. You can see a Queen now continuing to lay down more and more creep tumors, trying to establish a very strong creep highway. I don't see that many observers out, so that is going to be an issue. No observers, one observer out to try to stop this creep highway, but the creep highway has already been pushed out pretty far. So that's going to be a fair amount of damage, as the Stalker's going to come across 2 creep tumors and easily destroy them. But at least mouzMorrow knows that there is an army now coming in. A Stalker now making its way back over here. Drones now being transferred here, as spine crawlers rooting themselves in position once more. No longer having spine crawlers at the main front entrance, but more at the weaker side, where mouzMorrow also has a lot of his roaches. The roaches do not have the movement speed just quite yet. Needs about another 7 seconds or so, so by the next engagement they shall. Immortals and Stalkers now making their way out. Sentries in that group as well, as those units are just going to clean up the rest of this creep tumors as well. And one roach, a group of roaches now able to take down, and there's the force fields splitting up, and now the roaches are able to scamper through. So that's going to be a very, very difficult location, but the roaches now going to destroy these rocks very easily. A large number of roaches, all dealing a decent amount of damage, leaving the rocks at 35 hit points. Apparently, those rocks just don't want to get destroyed. Back over here, we are going to get some Stalkers picking off some of those drones. Another drone now taken down, but these roaches or Stalkers are not long for life, as those roaches are going to be able to easily destroy that one Stalker there. Roach unable to really escape, and a Stalker able to get some damage off before it quickly gets destroyed once again. 3,000 mineral versus 3,200. The Protoss army slightly larger in terms of gas. Income-wise, Harvester 63 to 63. Production-wise, Corruptors and Immortals now being added. taking a look at the army supply, 71 versus 82. Worker supply, 73 to 63. Excuse me, as I did not see. There was actually a 10 discrepancy in terms of the harvester count, not an even as I had originally mistakenly saw. Stalkers and sentries still wandering around. Grubby perhaps waiting to take his time and figure out what target he wants to attack with. A Roach quickly getting sniped down there, as these rocks are now finally destroyed. We are getting a decent amount of Corruptors in the air, 5 Corruptors, and now a Phoenix absorbing some of that damage as well, as the Corruptors now back off. Those Corruptors need to focus down on Colossi in order to really be worth their weight. The hallucinations, though, is there? Yeah, there's also one hallucinated Colossus in this group. So perhaps that Colossus will get focused down first. And interestingly enough, the Colossus also shares the same upgrades as the real Colossi. So hallucinated Colossus has the same upgrades as a non-hallucinated. You can see this one group of units and a lot more Stalkers now continuing to be added. And will that Blink Micro come into play once again? You can see 158 food versus 197 as the Roaches now try to battle it out. Corruptors now coming in and a low hit point. Oh, there's the Force Fields coming in as well. The Roaches now trying to burrow underneath. Corruptors still getting a lot of damage on the Colossi as those Corruptors are now just falling a little bit behind. And now the Roaches need to run away and now able to barely escape. Oh, another round of attack, almost taking down another unit. And now you can see Morrow significantly behind, losing 2,000 resources, or twice the amount of losses so far, as Grubby's army is just continuing to grow continually. A pylon over here gonna get easily destroyed, as Morrow sitting on 1-0, Hydralisk sitting on 1-0 as well. Level 2 weapons upgrade about to be completed. We are now, wow, I'm more surprised at the army size difference. Grubby still has about 30 food to use in terms of his army, but he also has the advantage in terms of minerals and gas, as a battle now happening over here. Stalkers and Immortals trying to run away now. The Roaches may be able to get a lot of damage here, perhaps turn around getting some damage, as those Corruptors are not going to be able to really deal that much damage at all. Stalkers are blinking back, and beautifully done by Grubby, just blinking those lower hit point Stalkers from the front, and still able to reduce the amount of losses that he suffered. But he was on the losing end of that particular engagement, losing those very, very precious Colossi. Hydralisk and Immortals still being added to this group over there, as you can now see Stalkers coming in. I haven't seen any Ultralisk yet, so the Ultralisk would have a very difficult time against those Stalkers still, but at least it would, I guess, even out the mineral size, the discrepancy. Grubby has more food count to work with, even though his army is not nearly completed, or nowhere near supply locked, now sitting at 164. More Zealots and Stalkers now being added to this group. He still has about 30 food to use in terms of his food count, as you can also see the the counting difference. And now the Stalkers trying to run away. Corruptors now coming in as well, getting some corruption on some key units. Both sides battling it out. Hydralisk and Roaches continuing to push their way forward. Hydralisk have a fair amount of damage on them, as the Stalkers are now just able to battle it out continually. Grubby still blinking away with those lower hit point units, as those Hydralisks are still trying to battle it out. 23 Roaches in production, and Morrow says GG. So Morrow losing this game as well to Grubby here in the Xel'Naga Caverns, and Grubby has now taken a 2-0 lead in the series. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for Game 3 in the series between mouzSports' Morrow and Grubby here in the Xel'Naga Caverns.